bunny back in the box.
I knew you was a punk, and I was right. You been playing us all along. You a free man.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
We interrupt this program to bring you
Nick Whoa, Cage!
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And I'm Adam.
And I'm Julie.
And we are the Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. And this month, it's March. The Real Cage Match series, where we're going to take a look at 12 different Nicolas Cage movies. This episode, we're watching Con Air. Newly paroled ex-con and former U.S. Ranger Cameron Poe finds himself trapped in a prison transport plane when passengers seize control. Okay, guys, we jumped a year in the future. Last video, we talked about The Rock, which was like a seldom kind of... It wasn't like a crazy, zany Nick Cage movie. Sure, it had its moments, right? Definitely. Con Air is, I think, the epitome of like action when most people think of Nick Cage in an action movie. He's insane in this movie, and this whole movie is insane to the point where it doesn't even make sense half the time. But you know what? Con Air, in my opinion, another one of the best action movies of all time. I really hate to say it. I love this movie from beginning to end, from its highest points to its lowest points. I really can't wait to talk about it. Adam, have you seen Con Air? Is this your first time? What'd you think?
This was another first time for me. But this one was fun too. I was also surprised as to how many, like good actors or, prolific actors are in this movie too. Right.
Like, why did they sign on for this movie? Some of you have to wonder it a little bit.
Yeah. Like the cast was crazy. I was, all of a sudden I was pointing out Steve Buscemi and Dave Chappelle, and I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah. And John Malkovich, who like reportedly hated every single second of being on set for this movie. And he was even like talking about this movie to the point where it makes him like visibly angry when he has to speak about Con Air. Yeah, you're not wrong. This has an all-star cast. It's like John Cusack, just like all these people. Again, a lot of like those big 90s faces that we've seen, and we still see some of the most point. We see most of them today too, and I think that's really impressive. But yeah, what did you think? Overall, good time or?
Yeah, no, I did. It was another 90s action film.
And I think it hits all the points for that.
Yeah.
How about you, John? How about you? What'd you think? First time for you, or?
I think I've seen this a while ago, but
Okay.
It's not like it didn't stand out in my mind while watching it that I remember it. But I thought it was overall a decent movie. It was a fun time. It was a good action movie. It was very interesting to see the similarities between this movie and The Rock, though.
Okay, like what kind of similarities were you seeing? Was there like some of like the...
Like just like the overall tone, I guess, of the movie too. And it almost like, after watching them, they almost seemed like they would work cohesively in like some weird way.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, you got two prison kind of settings, and you have, like I could see definitely a similarity there for sure. Yeah, you're not entirely off by that. All right, Julie, you're the Nick Cage anti-fan over there. What are you thinking?
I have a love-hate relationship with Nick Cage in this movie because he is wildly entertaining, but his accent is so damn irritating. I can't stand. Why did they have to make him from the South in this movie? But I had a really fun time with this movie. The star power alone, the absolute insanity from beginning to end. It was a wild ride on Con Air.
Yeah, Con Air. So what Julie's talking about is throughout the whole entire movie, Nicolas Cage plays a very different character compared to what we just saw him in The Rock. In this movie, he's a long-haired former ex-U.S. Ranger with a southern accent that's terrible at times, which I don't even know why he really decided to do that. There was really no reason to. But again, maybe it makes it just that more interesting, but he's got his long flowing hair. He's just getting out of prison because, he went to prison because he was he went to prison for murdering someone, but was it
Well,
not falsely imprisoned, but like, you know, he really shouldn't have went to prison. Essentially, you know, he was defending his wife and everything, and then he killed someone by accident, and he was sent to prison. You know, that kind of story beat with him. But I think in some ways it makes him kind of endearing, right? A little bit, the character, because you kind of care about him, like, oh, I'm just gonna get out of prison. I'm just gonna go spend time with my family. He's got a little bunny he's gonna give to his daughter when he sees her. And then he gets on this plane, which, again, this is where I think some of this movie loses me, and I want to see what you guys think. The whole idea of just, okay, I get it. You're transporting prisoners on a plane, right? Sure, you have to do that. But the fact that throughout this entire movie, they didn't just shoot down the plane and call it a day really blew my mind. And there was several times where, like, John Cusack's like, that's my plane. We have to save my plane. Because he's in charge of this whole mission, trying to get these prisoners from point A to point B. Like, these are all, like, most of these people are going to prison for life. Like, they're not coming back. And they're hijacking a plane that's going to pretty much destroy wherever they're going to and cause terrible things. That was the one thing that I guess bothered me. But did the sense of logic bother anyone when watching this movie to any extent? Because at least The Rock, I can kind of like, all right, they had to break in, they had to get into the prison and stop missiles from being fired. But this one seems a little bigger of a leap for me.
I will say I feel like they did try to cover their tracks in some way, because they did the whole thing where, I mean, they took over for the pilot. They had the guards, you know, incapacitated. Then they had to do that prison or the prisoner switch out or whatever, where some were getting off and they were getting more. So they were impersonating the guards. And then even I think they put a tracker in like a tourism kind of plane. So they thought that they were following the prison plane to shoot it down, but it ended up just being like, you know, tourists on a sightseeing journey. So like, I feel like there were little things here and there that kind of prolonged that we need to shoot it down kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, towards the end, like they totally should have just shot it down. I think they even make a joke at the end because like there's just absolute destruction when they do finally land. And someone says to John Cusack, like, oh, is it really worth it for one good guy on the plane?
Hell yeah, it was. Hell yeah, it was. Again, it's just like the logic. Adam, now we talked about the action in the last movie. What was your like peak action scene? Because I think there's a lot more zany action scenes, but again, I think they're a lot more fun in this movie comparatively to The Rock.
Oh, absolutely. I think the one that I immediately think about is the one that's like literally just hyper cuts, like jump cuts when
Right.
I think it's Dave Chappelle's character takes the lighter and he lights the one guy on fire.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you know, somebody else is getting shot, and then all while of this is happening, they're cutting to Nicolas Cage, just like his face like the entire time, just astoundment that all this is happening. I thought that one was really funny. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a good one too. And again, it kind of is like that hyper stylized 90s cutting,
Right.
like you said, just like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like it makes you want to vomit at some point because it's so damn fast. But again, in some way, it does add like a little bit of tension to what's happening there. And that's also like some of the things I wonder about this movie, which makes me think of some of it didn't age so well. Some of the characters, was it Baby? What was the name of the one? The one guy.
It's like
one
some
prisoner.
Sally can't dance or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was
and
actually
it's
Sally
feminine.
can't dance. That's what it was. Sally can't dance. That didn't age so well. There were some jokes there. But you know, again, we were in the 90s. It was kind of a different time for that. But like Adam also said, all the actors are in this movie. The best standout like side character, I think John Malkovich, regardless if he hated his time on this movie, he's fantastic. Just being the smartest guy in the room, yelling orders to everybody. I think he did a really great job. Dave Chappelle was also pretty good standout, even though he's not in the movie most of the time. I think his death scene's pretty memorable in some ways. He gets caught under the wheel of the plane and they have to like get him out. Like, oh, that was pretty nasty. But I think we're all gonna say who the best character besides Nicolas Cage was in this movie. It's Steve Buscemi.
Yes.
Clearly was like the best other character in this movie, playing one of the worst serial killers alive. Was it Garland Green? I think his name was.
Yep. Also nicknamed the Marietta Mangler.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, and John, I think you're gonna remember this too. Doesn't he remind you of the character from Billy Madison? His character.
I was gonna say that the whole time I was watching it. I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy looks very familiar.
I know, right? And it's like the
Like, it was
sequel
just
to
like-
Billy Madison. I feel like it was
it
the
was like-
sequel.
Yeah, it was like Billy Madison's like rapist or something. It was so weird.
Crossed him off the list.
Yeah, he's crossing them off the list.
Yes, yeah. I was like, oh my god, like he's playing it again.
I know.
I
That's
think
what it
there's
felt
even
like.
a visual like connection because I think in Billy Madison he's wearing like a white collared shirt or whatever, and then his prison jumpsuit's very similar. So like it's just I don't know, visual connection.
Yeah, and you know what? It was probably like out of all the action, like the action, you know, it's going to go a certain way, it's going to be crazy and whatnot. But when I'm watching him, specifically, there was a lot of tension in Steve Buscemi's scenes because there's a scene where he kind of like leaves the group and he's hanging out with a little girl the whole time, and you're like, what the hell is this? I didn't know
that part.
Yeah,
That part creeped me the hell out. Like,
yeah,
just this creepy, like, and also like it's the weirdest part too because there's this little girl just inside this like empty ass pool, but there's like no one around, like no houses or anything, and you're just like, the fuck is going on here?
right.
And then you look at him and you're just like, all right, something bad's gonna happen here. So
Right, and then nothing did, but I don't know about you. What do you guys? Do you guys think that should have just been cut out? Like, it seems like just for no reason, because this movie, I think more so than The Rock, we talked about The Rock had like good pacing, I felt like through the whole time. Con Air definitely has a few low moments, I think, throughout it, where I feel like they're just kind of like adding time along to what's going on, especially once they land the plane. I think there seems to be a case of they just kind of get going, you know?
I wouldn't have cut out that Steve Buscemi scene just because there was a lot of tension there, and it cuts back and forth and like, you know, between other action things or other things happening near the plane and then back to that. So that was like a nagging thing the whole time. Like, what's going to happen? What is he going to do? And then even he leaves and you're not sure what he did until you finally see the girl, alive and well. But there's definitely a lot of parts where I feel like they could have trimmed some stuff, especially when the plane was temporarily downed. I just feel like that section of the film was really long.
Yeah, it felt longer than it needed to be. Wouldn't you agree, Adam, or how do you feel about that too?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the scenes dragged, I guess maybe to explain, certain characters and certain motives for them, or, and especially in Steve Buscemi, that kind of like increase his, creep factor, if you will.
Right, and it
I
didn't
guess
really add to the story. I felt
yeah,
like,
but that's the biggest issue, is that it really didn't add much to the whole picture, I guess.
Right, because sometimes I even questioned the fact that they even did like the whole prisoner transport scene. Like, it's kind of cool in theory, like, oh, we have to like swap prisoners and we have to try and evade the police. But again, if you're taking at least a little bit of logic in this, I feel like they would have figured that out a lot sooner. Like, there's all these protocols and stuff in place throughout the whole entire movie. And again, they kind of just sidestep logic a lot of the time. Like, oh, there's a sandstorm, so, oh, we just can't see who these people are in the sandstorm. They got like blood all over their prison outfits and stuff like that. Like, okay, like, come on, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that even.
Yeah, it's like they made a lot of the scenes, work for the movie that they were trying to portray.
Right. And I think again, the scenes on the plane, I think, are the strongest moments in this movie. And even the finale, for as much as I love the finale of this movie, they land the plane in Las Vegas, and you think the movie's pretty much over, it feels like, at that point. Like, oh, everything's done, we're taken care of. No, they decide they have to have a whole like motorcycle chase. John Cusack, who's not an action star either, there's arguments to be made for him and Nick Cage with their performances, because they both ham it up a little bit. And John Cusack's another like weird actor that deserves his own month, I think, to some extent. But again, they chase John Malkovich throughout the entire like strip of Las Vegas, and they have this outlandish scene. He gets thrown through glass, and like everything piles on his head randomly, gets smashed by like a giant pin. It's so over the top, but it's like, it feels like it's so disjointed from the rest of the movie. Like, they just wanted like a big climactic action scene, when I think like the Con Air, the idea of it just being on the plane, was so much more interesting than having that chase scene at the end. Did you think it detracted anything, John, or did you like that last finale scene?
No, I mean, I thought it was kind of randomly thrown in there, but I also don't know how I would have felt if it just ended like once the plane landed, though, either.
Okay, all right. So
I feel like, in a way, it doesn't make sense to me, but if it wasn't in there trying to think back, I don't know what I would have thought of the movie as a whole then.
Yeah. How about you, Julie? What do you think?
It definitely like could have ended then, like when that whole chase scene began. I'm like, oh, come on. And I kept expecting, which I don't know if I'm glad that it didn't happen or like upset that it didn't happen. I was totally waiting for the moment where John Malkovich's character was going to like hold the daughter hostage and be like, oh, what are you going to make me do? Because that totally would have happened in like any other movie, you know?
Yeah, no, I think so too. And like I said, there's a lot of things they do in this movie. Like even with the friend being diabetic, like I'm diabetic, and that's definitely not how it works. Just so you guys know, like if I don't get my insulin, I'm not gonna like just die randomly on a couple-hour flight. But I have to say, like the fact is, like he gets his insulin, he's fine, and then he gets shot. It's like he just went through this whole thing with like the insulin. Now again, they feel like they inorganically, like Adam said, like they're trying to fit this like plot motive, so they have to keep like inorganically extending the plot to keep it going. And you know, I shouldn't feel like that when I'm watching an action movie. I really think I should feel like, again, nonstop thrill ride, like hit our points, boom, 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 get to the end, the finale, we're done. Was I happy at the end when Nick Cage reunites with his daughter? Yeah, I think that's an awesome scene. He gives her like the dirty bunny rabbit, like, here you go, little girl, I've been waiting for you. What was it called? He calls his wife like Ladybug or whatever. It's something really random too, which made no sense. Also, I don't like Nick Cage narration, just so you guys know. I kind of have a hard time. That whole beginning scene was kind of a sloth to get through for me, where he's just like reading the letters back and forth with his daughter. I get it. You're trying to build that anticipation, like, oh, I'm getting out of jail, but man, Nick Cage in that accent just they kind of hurt the movie for me.
Way to break the immersion.
It really does. Like, oh, dear my girl, I've been waiting for you for 9 years. I'm getting out of prison. I can't wait to see you. Like,
And then,
dear
Daddy,
I can't
wait to meet you. I hate my teacher.
I kind of wanted to watch it on mute at points, definitely during that point. I could have just done without that. But again, I think Con Air has a lot of great things about it. I'm not trying to put it down or anything like that. But as far as comparing it to The Rock, you know, there's something to be said there. But before we wrap up, there's a special thing we have to acknowledge. We always give the award for the real Cagiest moment. Julie, what would you like to present the real Cagiest moment to in this film?
The real Cagiest moment goes to when Cameron Poe, Nick Cage, is stepping into the fresh air after being in prison. That meme-worthy moment where he takes the deep breath in and the hair is blowing in the background.
Hey, Larkin, who's that guy? That is Cameron Poe, a parolee hitching a ride home. He's a nobody.
Doesn't even have to say a word, and he cages the screen up.
Yeah, I think that's like the most iconic scene in the movie. I think the bunny rabbit scene is also like put down the bunny is also like another famous scene. But something about that, I have to tell you, it's like Nick Cage just embodies the insanity that this movie is. And I see why it's so popular. It is that scene because it really is. It really is that much fun. But I think we're at that point. We're ready to give our final scores. I'm going to give Con Air a 7.5 out of 10.
Die, punk!
Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
I had a really good time with Con Air. I'm not going to tell you. I think it's a fantastic action movie. My only issues is, like I said, some of the pacing really just kind of bogs down this movie for me. I think there's all like really great actors. We even talk about like Danny Trejo being in this movie, like crazy young, by the way. And I kind of can't look at him the same way. I know he was like a former ex-con or prisoner or whatever, but oh man, they kind of did him bad in this movie. But again, overall, this is a good movie. I think if you like action movies, it's only a year apart from The Rock. This came out in 1997. This is what it is, right? This is the meme-worthy movie. You've seen all the memes with, like you said, with the Nick Cage hair blowing and you know the action and everything. Like this is kind of what people look for when they see Nick Cage as an action star, and I kind of see why. It's a good time. Just it overstays its welcome a little bit. It has some things that don't work really as well now, and you know. But I think again, you're gonna have a good time. John, where do you stand with this film?
I give this film a 9.
You're Cameron Poe.
That's right.
I'm Larkin.
Hello, Larkin.
I got your message.
Where are the troops?
You'll be here?
They'll be here.
Uh-huh. In a minute. Listen, Poe. Can I lower this?
Go ahead.
You gonna lower yours?
Sorry, boss, but there's only 2 men I trust. One of them's me. The other's not you.
I feel like the film was really good. I thought it was action was decent. I thought the premise in some parts lagged in a little bit. But I feel like also the actors did this movie a good job. I felt like I believed most of the characters, even though their stories were told like way too long.
Right. Okay. All right, so you enjoyed it a lot more than I did, apparently.
Yes.
Hey, that's
Shockingly, yes.
Shockingly, yes. That is really surprising. So, okay, all right, I can see what you're saying. There is a lot of great character performances, like we said, all the great actors that were involved with this. But all right, that's interesting. I'm glad to see your take, Adam. Where do you stand with this one?
I'm going to give Con Air a 7.5 out of 10 as well.
They somehow managed to get every creep and freak in the universe onto this one plane, and then somehow managed to let them take it over. And then somehow managed to stick us right smack in the middle. Hi, Garland.
I just think a lot of the pacing issues were off with it, and there was definitely a lot of scenes that I could do without, but it's still an enjoyable watch. I had a great time with it. I mean, like you said, all the actors in the movie, they really make it like this chaotic 90s movie that I was expecting.
Right, and it's a nice time capsule, I think. I think that's even like what John's saying too. It is a time capsule of all these like great 90s personalities, like we've said. And if you go back and watch it, it's just fun to be like, oh, look who that is, or look who they is. I didn't know they were in this movie. There's a lot of enjoyment to that. Even if the plot is shaky, the action and the performances still stand up pretty well. So that's interesting. Julie, how about you? Where do you stand?
I'm going to give Con Air an 8.5 out of 10.
What's this shit?
It's my daughter.
Well, I don't care if it's a weep at Mama Christ. There's no personal possessions on this airplane.
Just as long as you know I'll be getting that back at some point.
Are you telling me what I'm going to be doing here, numbnuts?
You heard me.
I found this movie to be really enjoyable. I had a lot of funny moments. Definitely some scenes that could have, went to the cutting room floor. But this was just absolute insanity, and I was right along for the ride.
All right, so you definitely enjoyed it a lot more. This might be the one you liked. You liked it more than The Rock? Was that what'd you give The Rock? I don't remember.
I gave it an 8.
Oh, okay. So Julie liked this a little more. That's very interesting. So, all right, we got little changes in our scores. Which, when it comes to Nicolas Cage, I think we're gonna see even more disparity in our scores when we start to move along with some of his films. But again, guys, thank you all joining us for this episode of The Real Review. Real Cage Match Month continues on. We're taking a look at all the real Nicolas Cage movies. So let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video, guys. If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.